Hey, movie fans, it's me, Jem, and welcome to episode 17 of Gem at the Movies, where I like to talk about movies and TV series, either recent or old but gold. Okay, so let's get straight into the review. The movie we're gonna take a look at today is a classic anime movie that is loved by many. The movie we're going to take a look at today is Akira. Okay, so I have only seen this movie recently, but I had read a lot of comments on YouTube and anime pages that um, people wish that they could see this movie again for the first time. Okay, so first thing, let's take a look at that movie poster. It's a plain white background, and there's a guy in a red jacket, but that is not Akira. That's what I thought at first. That is Kaneda, the owner of the famous red motorcycle. At first, I thought this was going to be some kind of motorcycle racing movie, but it's not. The story is very, very far from that. Okay, so like I said, this movie is well loved by a lot of anime fans around the world, both the young and old generation. And that love was recently revived in the movie Ready Player One, which was released in 2018. Kaneda's bike was featured as the vehicle of the heroine of the movie, Artemis, in a race in the movie. The movie was released in 1988 and is directed by Katsuhiro Otomo. The movie is set in the year 2019 in a rebuilt city called Neo Tokyo, where corruption, protesting, terrorism, and gang violence has become very rampant. So, first impression on Kaneda's character design, it's very reminiscent of Michael Jackson's outfit in Thriller, just because Kaneda is wearing a matching red jacket and pants. But Thriller came out in 1982 and Akira came out in 1988, so I don't know if there is any direct influence on the movie. Another show during the 90s that reminds me a lot of Akira is Biker Mice from Mars. Specifically, the character of Vinny. I don't know if Biker Mice from Mars was directly influenced by Akira, but you can clearly see the design influence on Vinny's motorcycle. It's a sleek design, and it's really very similar to Kaneda's bike, and it's colored red, along with the idea of heroes riding motorcycles fighting crime. Another character in anime that reminds me a lot of Kaneda is Kaname Hagiri, aka Sniper in Yu Yu Hakusho. Just because he rides a motorcycle as well and he does wear a red jacket, he just gives me that Kaneda vibe. So while watching the movie, my impression of Akira is that Akira is a some kind of god of destruction, like a prophecy of an apocalypse. Okay, let's talk about the cinematography, animation, and visuals of Akira. I've always appreciated the Japanese great attention to detail when it comes to animation. Such examples of this are Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. Akira is no exception. This film is very beautifully made. Although at times there are scenes in the film which can get really, really grotesque. Because this is a film about hallucination and how the mind can influence you of things that are not there or things that didn't happen. The images in this movie can turn cute things into nightmares. Okay, next let's talk about the story of Akira. Uh, I'm sure that in its time it was a very unique story. It had a very apocalyptic prophecy element to it, yet it's still very relevant to what's happening today. It reminded me a lot of the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, just because the concept of both movies is about the mind and its potential, and how both Tetsuo and Lucy were just simple people in the beginning, and then they gained superpowers, and later on they couldn't control it. Later on, they just became one with the entity that possessed them. Okay, next, let's talk about the characters of Akira, starting with Kaneda. Kaneda is Tetsuo's best friend, and he's a leader of the biker gang named Bozuzoku. And Kaneda is trying to protect Tetsuo from himself before he destroys all of Neo Tokyo. You can tell that Kaneda loves his motorcycle very much. He's got an image of a tough guy, but at times he can also be a softy and a comedic person. And he knows how to look after his friends. Tetsuo is Kaneda's best friend and shares his passion of motorcycles. One day he crashes into an Esper named Takashi and he suddenly gains psychic powers. At first, Tetsuo had no idea what was happening to him. Um, he started hallucinating about a bunny, a teddy bear, and a car, and suddenly they turn into these giant, grotesque, nightmarish monsters. Tetsuo steals Kaneda's bike with his girlfriend Kaori. Uh, Suddenly, the bike stops and they get mobbed by the clown gang. Tetsuo gets beat up and Kaori gets raped. Kaneda comes to the rescue and scolds Tetsuo for stealing his bike. And then uh, Tetsuo starts imagining that his organs were falling out. But it was only in his mind, it wasn't really happening. Shikishima is a Japanese self defense forces colonel, and he's very interested in Tetsuo. He believes that Tetsuo may be the next coming of Akira. He's very interested in Tetsuo's abilities and wants to kill him to prevent destruction from Akira. Kei is an activist for the resistance movement, and Kyoko is an Esper who uses Kei as a medium to fight Tetsuo. Espers are like these little green kids with psychic powers. Okay, so let's talk about the climax and ending of Akira. So Kaneda decides to get on his bike and go after Tetsuo because he knows Tetsuo wants the bike. So Kaneda confronts Tetsuo, and Tetsuo is telling him that Kaneda has always been telling him what to do, picking on him, bossing him around, and he wants Kaneda to know that it's not like that anymore. Because now he is this all powerful being. So Kaneda is carrying with him this kind of laser bazooka, and he starts firing at Tetsuo. And then later, the weapon malfunctions because of the battery, and he gets frustrated, and he starts telling Tetsuo that, "Hey, why don't you fight me with your bare hands?" And Tetsuo is just laughing at him and mocking him. So then this weapon from space starts to shoot down at Tetsuo, and it takes out his arm. And he goes off into space and tries to use the weapon against Kaneda. And then he destroys the space weapon. He then manages to fabricate a mechanical arm out of spare parts So then Tetsuo is in the Olympic Stadium along with Kaori and Shikishima, and his powers start going out of control, and he starts mutating into this horrific giant baby-like creature, and he absorbs Kaori and kills her. And then later Kaneda arrives and he also gets absorbed into Tetsuo. And this is one of my favorite scenes of the movie, because as an artist, it's one thing to draw a very detailed thing like Tetsuo growing into a giant monster, and it's another thing to animate it. I can only imagine the painstaking hours that went into animating that one scene. In order to stop this, the three Espers decide to summon Akira. So Akira absorbs Tetsuo, and Kaneda starts to see images of Tetsuo as a young boy in a school for kids with special abilities. And then he sees the first time that he meets Tetsuo. So after Tetsuo has been taken by Akira, Kaneda wakes up to find out that Kei and Kai, or Kaisuke, have survived. And it ends with the final scene where they ride off into the destroyed Neo Tokyo. So, my final thoughts on Akira. If you're a fan of movies, especially of Japanese animated movies, then Akira is a must watch. It is what people say it is. It's a masterpiece of animation with great art direction, great storyline, and the soundtrack is amazing as well. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, put it on your must-see list. So that is it for me for today. I hope you enjoy Akira. And if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.